We haven't seen the actual draft of the law even till this point after it's passed, so nobody knows for sure what is actually inside the law and what is the exact wordings of the law. But we know the general idea that it's aiming at dismantling the movement since 2019 because it will frame peaceful protests or otherwise into so-called local terrorism, and the effort of lobbying for international support will be seen as in fighting for an intervention, and it's bypassing a legislative council, and it is aiming at disqualifying the candidates who is going to run for the election in September if they ever participated in international lobbying. So we can see that the law aims at generating fear among Hong Kongers to stop them from speaking up ever again.
And we've already seen high-profile pro-democracy lawmakers like Joshua Wong resign. Do you think that's the right step?
I think it's the right step to do because it doesn't matter if we have to be in a party or in a group, as long as we are doing the same things on our personal capacity. It's actually maybe safer for everyone because, for example, if I'm in a party and I'm arrested or I'm being investigated by the Chinese officials, then I might lead to other party members being arrested. But if I'm working on my personal capacity, then at most only I will be arrested and I will be held accountable for what I have done. So I believe maybe disbanding parties or returning to personal capacity may be a way to go in this age of the national security law.
Glacier, let's talk a little bit about what we heard from Carrie Lam earlier in the program. She talked about a presumption of innocence, that the person's rights will be protected. When we've seen the justice system in China operate, how confident are you that the judicial system will be fair and transparent?
I have no confidence in what Carrie Lam has said today because seeing the track records of China, it's in no way that I can believe that our human rights will be respected. Those activists and those dissidents who are being arrested in China has been tortured and abused. And in the national security law, the Chinese government will set up its own agency and its own detainment facilities in Hong Kong. And in the movement last year, we have seen protesters being abused by the Hong Kong police already. And it's in no way that we can believe that our rights will be upheld. And at the same time, I think when Carrie Lam says the law only targets a small portion of people, it's actually not true because the focus of the aim of the law is trying to create fear among the people, and that fear is among every one of us. Not just activists like us, but also ordinary citizens will be afraid to speak up in that sense.
There are widespread rallies planned for tomorrow, July the 1st. Is this new law going to deter them?
I don't think the law will deter them. We will see how many people turned up tomorrow, but I'm confident that a lot of people will show up because I think in the city, many of us are very angry at the way that Chinese bypass our legislation implement such law in Hong Kong, and banning the annual 1st of July march is actually very symbolic to us that our liberties of the city has officially came to an end, and this is up to us to defend Hong Kong as our homeland.
What hope do you have that the international community will be able to bring some pressure to bear on China to at least go carefully with these new laws?
I think I do have a certain degree of hope in the international community. For example, the U.S. have said they will pause the beneficial treatments regarding Hong Kong, and the European Union has been stepping up when it comes to China. And I see more and more countries are being more cautious about China or changing their trade and political policy towards China. And I do see hope in the international community imposing sanctions one way or the other to deter China from further overstepping the boundaries.
The digital space is one that you know well. It's also a critical way that young people organise and communicate. How do you think this might be impacted down the track?
I think it will deter online service providers and internet service providers in Hong Kong, because I believe the law, and under this new law, they will be held accountable for what users are posting online. So they will have a tendency to self-censor themselves and censor what the users are talking about in order to circumvent the legal obligations. And this is very worrying for the freedom of speech online, because we need online services to be able to access the internet. And if that happens, if self-censorship is taking place, there will be a decreasing room of freedom of speech online in Hong Kong.
I'm interested in a personal question for you. You have lived abroad yourself before. What is your feeling about staying in Hong Kong now?
I am afraid, to be honest. I'm very afraid. Who wouldn't be under such a law? But I think that there is a difference between um, voluntarily giving out the rights that I used to have and I ought to have to the Chinese government. I don't think this is the right thing to do. I feel like Hong Kong, as my homeland, it needs me the most at this time. So it's not an option for me to leave at this point. Maybe I will return to Germany to continue my studies later. But at this point, I would choose to stay in Hong Kong and fight for our own freedom.
Glacier, appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.